this video I want to talk about taxes in Europe. It's a topic that nobody wants to talk about. I'm probably the only one who talks about that. I already started to talk about it back in the days, and people want to give me so much money because tax lawyers are saying one thing, people in the community are saying a different thing, and nobody really knows what to do about it. And I tell you honestly, tax lawyers will always tell you something different. They will always tell you the most politically correct thing that is possible. And I can give you an explanation why that is. So if you got a tax lawyer who is based in Europe, he has to follow certain regulations. If he does not, and he cannot subscribe that, right? Like if you get a tax lawyer and he tells you something, he's basically liable for his advice. So you're able to sue him if it's not correct. That's why a lot of lawyers are very careful. And only the really good lawyers that you need to pay a lot of money for, they will give you the biggest insights, because those are the ones who can take the risk, because obviously you pay them more money and therefore they do more research, they have a bigger team, and they find those little hacks, little niches. We in my team, we already found those niches, little hacks. We paid tons of money for the different lawyers. We know how this works, and I can tell you how the dropshipping scene in Europe looks like currently. So if we are talking about taxes, we need to differentiate between three taxes. You have the company taxes, you have the VAT taxes, and then you have the taxes for distribution, so dividend taxes. You pay also sales taxes, you pay employee taxes for your employees. But I guess the two most important ones is the company capital profit tax and the VAT. Obviously, depending where you live, you can also reduce the dividend tax. So in this video, I want to focus in general about taxes in Europe, how it's compared to the rest of the world, how you can go around it, how you can minimize that. And I give you some actually insights how the scene is looking right now and what the top dropshippers are doing. So don't skip forward, right? Listen to everything what I say in the video, because everything is important. So let's start with the income tax. The income tax or capital tax for your company, it's basically depending on the region where you live. If you live in Germany, it's 30%. If you live somewhere rest of Europe, it's between 9% till 30%. Hungary has the lowest one with 9%, and then you have France that has 25%, the UK has 20%, and so on and so on. This one you can reduce if you have a bunch of losses on the other hand. So every time you go out for dinner, you can charge it as business expense. If you do a trip somewhere, you can also charge it as business expense. When you had a trip to Dubai, and even though you just went there with your girlfriend, or you just went there for fun, to smoke some hookah in the desert, then you can basically charge that as a business expense. It's pretty common in every country, it's pretty similar everywhere in Europe, and you shouldn't focus too much on that, I would say. Just get all the bills and then afterwards give it to a bookkeeper, and he will type in everything for you. And then depending on the region, maybe you will have after talks, maybe your tax advisor will tell you some things you can not put as losses depending on the jurisdiction, and then you don't do that. But in general, it's really easy. You don't have to think much about it. If you want to minimize that, you just collect all the bills, you save them somehow, maybe get a cabinet where you have the bills per year, per company, you save them everything there. If it's not digital, if it's digital, you have one folder where you save everything, and then also set up a accounting software where you can put all the information directly inside. So the question now comes can I open up another company where the capital tax is lower? So can I set up a company in Dubai and Hong Kong where the capital tax is basically zero to go around that? And here's the thing about Europe. In Europe, you have this rule called CFC rule, which stands for Controlled Foreign Corporation. And there's basically rules about that if you have an offshore company somewhere else and you physically live in a country in Europe that has those CFC rules, you can look them up. Just type in CFC rules and then your country, and then you'll get a clear understanding what it is. You basically have to follow them. And what they usually mean is like if you have like an offshore company and there's no employees, there's no need that the company is somewhere offshore. Like there's really no physical need. You know, like a physical need would be, for example, that you register a company somewhere and this company actually sells in this country, and you can only get certain payment processors if you are registering a company there. So for example, if you sell in Africa, most likely it will be accepted because you need to register a company there. And also usually there are rules that says, okay, the company has to pay a certain amount of profit tax, and if it does in this jurisdiction, it's not considered an offshore jurisdiction, and therefore your tax authority will probably not say anything against you. But most likely you just want to register somewhere like in Hong Kong, Seychelles. You know, you can have a UK LLP, US LLC, and it's also like a viable option, pay 0%. But if you still live in your country, there's little to go around it. The best thing that you can do in this case is either you get out of the country that you're in and get into a country that has no CFC rules, or you just travel without, like you deregister and you just travel the whole time. You don't spend more than 6 months in any country, or you set up actually a company with substance in another country. You set up a manager there, you hire some employees there, you do all the contracts there, you set up the bank account there, and so on and so on. It sounds really easy, but it's more difficult, to be honest, to do the setup. I believe the easiest setup is actually to just leave the country, because there's so many better jurisdictions where you can do business and grow. Like every big person that I know, they don't live anymore in like their home country. It's maybe only not true for US citizens because they are basically taxed on their citizenship. So it doesn't matter where they live. They can live in Dubai, they can live in Bahamas. They still have to pay the same taxes. For them, it's like no question. All the business stays in the US. They travel just for fun. But in Europe, we are not so far. So like all the big dropshippers, they are living outside of Europe, or in some jurisdictions in Europe that are okay with that. So in Switzerland is a good option. You pay less tax on everything. You have no CFC rules. Then Cyprus also doesn't have any CFC rules. You see a bunch of dropshippers living there. Then Ukraine was a viable option. You had CFC rules, but the government wasn't looking too much on foreigners. Malta is a good option. So yeah, to sum it up again, like it depends on jurisdiction, how much capital profit tax you pay, and you just have to look up how much it is per country, and you have to look up also the CFC rules in your country, and then based on that you can do the decision where to do that. The other question that remains is about the VAT. So there are certain rules in Europe that says if you're reaching a certain threshold in Europe, then you have to pay VAT in this country. For example, in the case of Germany, it's around 100,000 euros that you have to reach in revenue in total, right? It's not just for 1 month, it's not for 1 year, it's like in total. So or was it per year? I'm not sure. But basically, if you reach that, which is actually quite easy to reach if you are doing some substantial money. I mean, don't worry if you don't make any money, just keep dropshipping first until you start to make serious money, and then you can start to wonder where to go, what to do, with whom to speak, right? And again, your tax lawyer will probably give you like the most simplest answer, but he will never tell you like the truth, what you can do. I'm giving you right now like the fundament, what is there, what's the basic rule, and then I will tell you what the real dropshippers are doing. So now Europe has implemented this MOS system, so one-stop shop. So basically you can pay in one country and then it will transfer to other countries. That's another topic for itself. But basically you have to remember that in each country you have to pay it. And this is the actual funny thing, and this is actually also a segue to the thing that I want to say. And I'm gonna show you a video here. So listen what he says, because this video is like the #1 video currently on dropshipping taxes if I type it in on YouTube. And that's an American tax lawyer, right? Even though he doesn't look like a lawyer, he's apparently a lawyer, tax advisor, sorry. And listen what he says to you. paying VAT in Europe?
VAT tax is essentially sales taxes for really any entrepreneur that ships to Europe, right? So the thing about VAT taxes is it's very difficult for them to catch you. Not to say don't be compliant, but risk-based approach and entrepreneurship is fair game. You got to focus your time, energy, and
see what he's saying. Basically, he's doing a joke like, just don't pay it. But like, I can't really say it. But it's kind of a true thing. So if you're like based in the US, and most big dropshippers are actually based in the US, because for them paying sales tax is also kind of easy to go around. Like, the bigger tax authorities will not catch you for sale tax, at least not now. In Europe, it's much harder. Like, if you're selling in another country, like, you either have to pay the VAT in your home country, and if you don't do this, you have to pay the VAT tax in another country. So Europe is much more strict on that. But as you can see, like, the big dropshippers in the US, and there's also big dropshippers in Hong Kong, Singapore, they just don't pay because nobody can catch you. And that's the true thing. So there's also like safe setups where you can set up that you are actually not the seller, but you have like guy, like your supplier in China, he's actually the seller, you're just the marketing person, the intermediate, so he is liable. So it doesn't matter what happens, if the tax authority catches you, it's the Chinese company who is liable for that. But we all know, like, in China there's like literally like no regulation on nothing, not even for copyright. So it will be basically never possible to reach them. Right? So that's the thing. So it's pretty hard to like overcome that if you're still in Europe and you have a setup, but if you're outside and you're shipping into Europe, it's like no problem. Even if you're in Europe and you set up a really good agreement that you're just doing marketing for another company, and this is like an actual quite difficult setup, and you can reach out to me, I can explain you more how to set this up if you still want to remain in your home country, that you set it up. And there's like some regulations that prevent you to be like a payment company, because if you take like the payment for another company and then you transfer the payment to another one, you're basically like a payment transfer company, which has also like their own regulation inside of Europe. So a bunch of like regulations against regulations, but obviously like if you know that stuff, you can overcome it, etc. Like here, I would not encourage you, like if you want to leave Europe and set up something outside, you can do that really easily. But if you have more complex thoughts about it, then it's better to reach out to an expert, for example me, who's like in the space for 4.5 years. I'm not a tax lawyer, I'm not a tax advisor, and this is also no financial advice. It's just personal recommendations of things that we figured out, and that we figured out how the space is working. Because think about it, other dropshippers have more margins than you. You will be never profitable. How many products that you needed to test to find one winning product, and then you also started to pay tax on top of it, and then your profit margin went to zero. That's how the space currently works. And if others are doing it and they're getting around that, you will be never able to be profitable if you want to play it safe and be completely legitimate here. And no business is completely legitimate. Even the big businesses always find those like little niches to go through everything. So don't even consider yourself like bad for like, registering outside and like, living somewhere in another country. It's super normal. Businesses do that. They move to places where they get treated better. We live in a globalized world. Everything is like interconnected. Places on other sides of the world, they speak English. If they were colonized by the UK, they have also a good fundament on laws and all of that. So it's pretty easy to actually manage in this world if you get into that for the first time after a while. And then obviously like the last question remains about like the new rules that are happening with VAT. Like there's no like threshold of 22 euros or like 26 euros that you can ship orders into Europe without paying it. So basically how to go around that one is you like if you for example have the setup where you have like the Chinese supplier, you can declare like the price that he's declaring, right? because he's like the actual seller here. If you sell like that, if you buy the item from him from 10 euros, he should ship it to Europe and just declare 10 euros. So you pay only VAT on the 10 euros instead of paying like 40 euros and then on top of that the VAT tax. So that's one way. There's also some other ways, but that's basically like the simple setup, and that's what most people are doing currently. I'll do some other videos around taxes as long as those videos are getting traction. So if you really like this video, make sure that you subscribe, that you hit the like button, and that you comment on this video, so I know that this video is actually getting some traction and I should speak more about it. And yeah, it would be good if you spread the message a little bit around, say that I'm actually somebody who speaks about taxes, not like the rest. And I would be super happy if this video would be ranking as the first video on YouTube, where people would click and they would actually get some value from it and not just get random advice that they would get from any other tax lawyer. So with that being said, I'm gonna see you on the next video. Cheers!